Hello, and welcome to In the Roud. Greetings and salutations, dear listeners. This is In the Roud, a folk song podcast, and I am your host, Matt Quinn. Join me as we travel through the world of traditional folk song, one song per episode in the order they appear in the Roud Index. Each episode normally features two guests, one providing an historical look at the song, while the other will be a singer from the folk music scene to discuss their own version of the song. This podcast is proud to be partly sponsored by the Traditional Song Forum. Meeting regularly, both in person and online, the TSF provides a place for a variety of topics related to folk song, song collectors, singers, and many other aspects of folk song research to be presented and discussed. It's free to join, and most meetings are free to attend. So please do discover more about the TSF at tradsong.org. That's tradsong.org. So let's get going with this week's song. This time we're looking at Roud 44, which is Child Ballad number 64. That's the ballad Fair Janet. This is another hefty one with plenty to discuss. I'm thrilled to say that our singer guest for this episode is the legendary Peggy Seeger. We will hear from her later on. But for now, let's have a look at the song's history with the creator of the Roud Index himself, Steve Roud. Well, hello and welcome back, Steve Roud.
Hello there, me again.
Hello, you again. It's been a week.
You're right.
A whole week since we had you on Child Waters.
Yeah.
How have you been since then?
Oh, fine. Yes, thank you. Oh, actually, I can tell you some news. I just got a doctorate. I've been given an honorary doctorate by the Open University since last week. So I'm now Dr. Roud.
Oh, well, my apologies, Dr. Roud. No, my apologies for calling you Steve.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll forgive you.
But congratulations. That's absolutely
Thank
fantastic. I did actually see that. I forgot to mention. I did see that on... someone has been sharing it on Facebook. So,
oh, really?
A few people know about it. Quite a lot of people know about that now. It's fantastic news. Yeah.
All dressed up in my robes on the stage. And it was a weird thing. Never mind. Very nice of them.
Yeah, it's very nice indeed. Absolutely. Great stuff. Good. I'm glad that's happened. Very very well reserved, I was going to say.
Reserved, yeah.
Very well deserved. Let's get into this week's song. This is another hefty child ballad. We're in the middle of a batch of them. I guess we can't blame you for this because they're also in child order. So Fair Annie 2 weeks ago, last week Child Waters, today Fair Janet, and next week Lady Misery are all horrendous in their attitudes towards women.
Yeah.
And we will. I've already recorded this episode's singer interview a few weeks ago, and I can tell you, Peggy Seeger has quite a lot to say on that, as you would imagine.
Yes, indeed.
So listeners can look forward to that. Start us off on the history side. I almost said what it's about, but what is it about, and what's the plot of Fair Janet?
Okay, Fair Janet. So it's Child 64, Roud 44.
Yeah.
Not always Janet, of course. There's, sometimes Annette, sometimes even Misery again.
I know. I spotted one in Child earlier today that said Sweet Willie and Fair Misery, and I thought that's unhelpful considering what the next song in Child is called.
Yeah. So the woman, the young woman, presumably, is we'll call her Janet, but she's not always Janet.
Yeah.
And the fella is Willie or William. So yes, Sweet Willie, William, and Annette, Fair Janet, etc., etc. So we'll stick with Janet and Willie. Janet has a boyfriend called Willie, which is fine, but her father has arranged for her to marry um, often an English lord, sometimes a French lord, but this, as we'll find out in a second, is a Scottish song. So, some rich, old, foreign chap arranged marriage, which is, bad for Janet, obviously. But what's worse is that Janet is already pregnant and the father doesn't seem to know.
Right.
So, in we're talking about the full versions here because there are cut down versions. In the full version, Willie and Janet try to run away. Sometimes they ride off, sometimes they go on a ship. But Janet's time comes and they have to turn back because she's having the baby. So they don't get away, which is sad. She has the baby and they can't announce it, they can't acknowledge it. So Willie arranges for his mother to take the child. It's a son, I think in all versions. Take the son. He promises the mother some money and says, look after the baby. And she says, yes. So the baby's fine. This is the good news. The only good
Right.
news.
Okay.
But Janet is very poorly. She's just given birth. The father appears and says, right, the marriage is to the French lord is arranged. It's happening tomorrow. And she says, I'm too ill. I can't manage it. Doesn't say why, but she's too ill. And he says, bah, nonsense. You're getting married tomorrow. Sometimes Janet's nurse or lady, servant, lady in waiting, whatever, speaks up and says she's too ill. And he says, no, she's getting married tomorrow. So she has to go through with the wedding. As poorly as she is, she has to go through the wedding feast as poorly as she is. And it's a long song. I mean, it's 40 verses in some versions. So, there's plenty of time to go through the different trials that Janet has to undergo, even though she is very ill. And then it comes to the point where everybody decides to have a dance after the feast, and various people ask her to dance, including her new groom, her new bridegroom. And she says, no, I can't, I'm too ill. So she even refuses to dance with her new husband. But Willie asks her to dance, or she says, I will dance with Willie. And she dances, and within minutes, she's collapsed dead on the floor.
Right.
Good song, yeah. And then sometimes, I think usually, Willie has a few verses saying how sad he is, and he's gives all his money to his mother and stroke his son, and he shuffles off as well. For the moment, I can't remember whether he actually commits suicide or he just says, he's going to be sad for the rest of his life. Different persons. Anyway, that's the crux of the story. It's a tragedy, and it's the fairly regular motif of the parent, usually the father, but sometimes the mother as well, insisting on a marriage that the child, the hero, heroine, don't want. And that's where the tragedy comes from.
Yes, that certainly turns up.
That's what it's all about.
That turns up all over the place.
Yeah, you can have a play about it, or you can have a ballad about it.
Yeah.
It's a standard motif.
Yeah.
I mean, the song itself, the ballad, isn't that well known. The only versions we've got are from Scotland, as far as I know. No English versions, as far as I know, not even any American versions, but we haven't indexed all the American collections yet. Child himself gives 8 versions, and we'll caution people in a minute about Child and the additions in the back. But basically, he gives 8 versions, all Scottish. Bronson can only manage 2 tunes.
Right, yeah.
written tunes. There are, I think, one or two more apart from what's in Bronson. Yes, there are because of Carpenter and stuff. But even so, it's only a handful. Um, and as far as the history is concerned, it's not one of those ballads that seems to have attracted the broadside printers. I mean, again, we don't know all the broadsides that have ever been printed, but we haven't found any. And the first notion we've got of it is I mean, Child himself, the earliest version he could find was in Sharp, not Cecil Sharp, but Charles Kirkpatrick Sharp with an E
Oh,
on the end,
that's the other
who
sharp,
was a
yes.
Scottish ballad collector. He published a version in 1823. Motherwell, one of the best of the Scottish collectors, um, published one in 1827. So, in other words, 1820s. But in Child, there is um, one added version, which is probably a bit earlier than the 1823. I haven't quite nailed down. It's from the Walter Scott manuscripts in Abbotsford,
Right.
where he used to live. That's going to be somewhere between 1800 and 1820. So it's probably just a little bit earlier. But what we're talking here is 19th century,
Yeah.
very early 19th century versions. We've got nothing before that. So we can't say it goes back to, 1642 or whatever, which is true of most child ballads. So it's in the early Scottish collections, but very rarely after that. James Madison Carpenter collected a version in Aberdeenshire in the 1930s, 1929, 1930, from Belle Duncan, one of his star singers. But we're not talking a song that has hundreds of versions by any means. It's relatively limited. But
Yeah.
one of them, Sharp, that's right, 1823, he does say this was very popular in
Oh,
previous times. So we don't know how very popular, what very popular means, but it does mean that he's claiming that it was well known.
it was possibly widely sung. Yeah.
Yeah, probably widely sung, but again, we really don't.
No, and so we only really have. I mean, I'm sure you're going to say the James Madison Carpenter recording of Belle Duncan is basically the only evidence we have of someone actually singing it.
Yes, as far as we can tell at the moment, or as far as I can find, that's the only recorded version. So that's from 1930, early 30s,
Yeah,
Belle Duncan. And it's only a few seconds, just so he could get the tune and write it down, really.
that's right. It's about 16, 20 seconds, that sort of
Yeah,
thing, isn't it?
so it's an example of Carpenter and the earlier collectors not thinking that they are making a recording for posterity. They're making a recording so that they can then listen to it and write it down. So it's an aid to collecting. But thank heavens they did, because otherwise we'd have nothing at all.
Indeed.
Uh, but
But nevertheless, you still can't really. It's a wax cylinder recording, and it's
yeah,
almost impossible to make out anything.
yeah.
You
But
know.
hopefully somebody will bring some wonders of technology to bear on it and make it more listenable in the
Yeah.
future. But at the moment, it's hard work. It's very, very faint.
Yes.
And I'm not even sure that she's actually singing the words. She might just be la-ing the tune. I'm not
Yeah. I
sure.
wasn't entirely sure if I could make out any words myself in that one.
Now, the early versions, in fact, all the versions, the Scottish ones, are long. Um, the
Yes.
the child's first one, his A text, as they call it, from Sharp, is 30 verses.
Sorry, you say it's 30 verses, but then between verses 10 and 11, you've got the dots.
Yes, that's
So
right.
it's
So
so it's not a complete version, even
there
if
may
it's
there may
30.
well be other bits. And the version that's from Abbotsford, which is in the appendix, is 41 verses.
Wow.
So, not for the faint-hearted. Now, for the earlier broadsides that we've talked about and others have talked about quite often, where they had very long songs of 30, 40 verses, if it was a popular song, then somebody around 1800 rewrote it and cut it down
Oh yes,
to 8, 10 verses. That's the standard pattern.
yeah.
We can't find that happened to this one. Might even be that it's because it's after 1800, it missed out on that, fashion for rewriting. I don't know. But then that argument doesn't really hold water, because why, if the fashion was for short songs, why would you write a 41 verse song in 1800? In other words, we go round in circles. Without the evidence, we can't really say.
Sure, yeah.
But from the length of the song, we would guess that it was earlier than 1800, because that's when they really started to cut down their long songs. Now, what the only other thing to mention, and that's not really about this song, it's about child. If you're using the child collections, which if you're listening to these podcasts, you've heard about child so often that you really should have child on your shelves if you're interested in this kind of thing. But one thing that throws people is, because it was published one volume at a time, he was gathering information all the time. People were sending in versions and other people were coming up with things. So there are additions and corrections in the back of each volume for the numbers that were up to that point, if you see what I mean. We've already passed number 44. So, these corrections are going to go in the back. And then in the back of volume 5, there's major new versions and stuff.
Yes, there's no entry for Child 64 in the additions and corrections at the back of Volume 2, which is where the main bulk of
No, but that's
Fair Janet is.
that's because he hadn't got anything in
Yeah.
by the end of that book. But if by the time Volume 3 came out, somebody had sent him another version, it might be stuck in the back. So you do have to check volume, in a particular Volume 5, unless you've got the new edition. Well, when I say new, it's about 20 years ago. Loomis Press reprinted the whole of Child in hardback. Very nice edition. And what they did is they moved all the additions and corrections to the correct place in the volume. So if you've got, in this case, if you've got an added version, which is an important one, I mean, it's the longest one, I think, they put that under the main heading. So if you can afford it, it's probably 100 and something pounds for the volumes. Go for the Loomis edition, Loomis Press edition, because that's easier to use.
Right.
That's just a little snippet of bibliography for everybody, just to fill in the time, because there's not much more I can say about this song. It's
I was just scanning through to see how each of these version ends. What is featured in the final verse of some of these?
Yes, does he commit suicide, or does he just wander off into the wilderness? Yeah, sorry, I just remembered something. Yes, he does die of grief.
Right.
Because in versions you do get the graves and the intertwining of the rose and the briar kind of verse.
Well, I was about to bring up the rose and the briar thing, because that's a recurring motif across folk songs.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, we're coming up to Lord Lovell at the end of this season, and Barbara Allen's in the next season, and they've all got the intertwining briars and roses out of bodies and things.
Plenty of them. Yes, I remember now. Yes, in the most versions, that's what happens to him.
Yeah.
He dies. Of course, it's a tragedy, so he does have to. He can't just say, "Oh well, never mind."
Yeah. So the last verse 30 in version A, we got: "The Tane was buried in Marie's kirk, and the t'other in Marie's choir. Out of the Tane there grew a birk, and the t'other a bonny briar."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Burke and the Briar, and that's who's in that one. Janet and Willie, and she's married to wants to marry. He's being married to a French lord. That's the
Yeah,
version A is the French
yeah.
lord one.
Beware the French.
Beware the French. Version two, Motherwell, Willie and Fair Janet. Again, uh, don't think it says who she's being married to in that one. Or it must do. Maybe I'm just misreading it somewhere. But that ends with out and spoke then sweet William, and a sorry man was he. Although she has given you the gex, she will not bear the scorn. There's not a bell in merry Lincoln, but shall ring for her the morn. There was not a bell in merry Lincoln, but they tinkled and they rang, and all the birds that flew above, they changed their notes and sang.
Yeah. But why Lincoln comes into it, I have not. I'm not.
Linkum,
Oh, all
Linkum,
right. Okay. Okay.
not Lincoln, Linkum.
Right.
Where's Linkum? What's that? Do you off the top of your head? Do you know?
No, don't know.
Version C in Child, 19 verses, but between verses 18 and 19 is a load of dots, meaning there should be more.
Maybe the childbirth bit.
Quite
Don't know.
possibly. But it ends with Gardeal, Gardeal, the bread mother, Gardeal, Gardeal, the wine. This day hath seen my true love's death. This night shall witness mine. So that's just it ends with him saying he's going to die.
Yeah.
Version D from Motherwell, from Marjorie Johnson, who had it from her grand aunt, comma, a very old woman.
Yeah.
That's helpful, isn't it, in finding out who sang these songs?
And
Um,
he's collecting in the 1820s, so his grandmother could have been,
or grand aunt, yes.
or grand aunt could have been any time up to late 18th century
Yeah.
sort of thing. But again, we don't know.
And that's just 17 verses. She leaned her head on Willie's breast and her back unto the wall. Oh, there's the key of my coffer, and pay well the Norris fee. And yet I, when you look on your old son, you may, I think on me. It doesn't end with the deaths there. But who's that? Is that William and I
And it,
can't see a name of her in that one. But there are some dots, so they might have just been missed out. Uh, version D. It's called Lord William in Motherwell manuscript. So
even Child somewhere comments on how many Williams
yeah,
and Eleanors and Janets there are in the songs. He makes a little quip
that's right.
saying there's
Annie,
uh,
Eleanor's, Janet's, Maisie's, Marjorie's, Williams.
yeah,
Version E, the Kinloch manuscript, Willie and Fair Janet. 20 verses, but there's two lots of dots throughout it. Penultimate verse, out and spake he, sweet Willie, and his heart was almost game. 'Tis all the bells in Merrytown Kirk shall ring for her the morn. And the final verse, it just reads, Willie was born in Mary's Kirk, etc., etc., etc. That's great, that, isn't it? Really
yeah,
helpful. You're going to sing that one.
yeah. You can next time you sing it, you can end it with that.
Yes, is that just because he reckoned it was the same as a previous version he'd
Yeah,
listed?
no, I think it's just that it's the commonplace
Oh, I see. Okay.
verse. No point writing it down.
Etc., etc., etc. Real attention to detail there, child. It's great. The one Virgin F in Buchan's Ballads of the North of Scotland. Willie and Maisiery. That's the Maisiery one.
Yes, yeah. There's always a question mark over Buchan.
Right.
Steve Gardner may have mentioned this that he thinks that Buchan, that Buchan, there are other Buchan collectors, faked a lot of his ballads.
Right. Okay.
And Child wasn't sure either, so you have to handle it with care.
Yeah, and that version ends with I think Willie stays alive, but he's gone mad or something.
Yeah,
Uh, he seems to have injured her somehow. Then Willie lifted up his foot and dang him down the stair and broke three ribs of the bridegroom's side. and a word he spake no more. No moan was made for that lady when she was lying dead, but all was for him, sweet Willie, on the fields, for he ran mad. Which sounds nothing like any other version that's in
Yes,
Child.
that's exactly the problem with Buchan.
Yeah. Instantly, I read that and thought, I'm not quite sure I believe this.
Yeah,
When you look at the evidence of what else there is in Child for this song,
yeah,
that one doesn't ring true at all.
that's the trouble. But there are other things in Buchan which some people say, oh, that shows that it's true.
Yeah,
But yeah, if something stands out like a sore thumb, and there are lots of them in his stuff, then you begin to think, hello, hello,
yeah,
hello,
yeah.
hello.
And then version G is in Finlay's Scottish Ballads, Volume 2, I think. Will you marry the Southland Lord, a queen of fair England to be? Or will you burn for sweet Willie, the morn upon you lay? I will marry the Southland Lord, father, seen it is your will, but I'd rather it was my burial day, for my grave I'm going till. So she'd rather die and marry
The marry an English lord.
than marry an English lord. So,
Yeah,
and it ends. Oh, we've got dot dot dot. There's 13 verses, but there's dots after the 13th verse.
yeah.
We don't know how that version ends.
The dots don't always mean that that bits have been missed out. It often means that this bit of the song was forgotten. In other words, from a story point of view. So
Oh, okay.
it's not always, and it's not Child leaving stuff out. It's the
The previous.
original version.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the last version we have for that is at 13. Out and spake then sweet Willie, so loud I hear you lie. There's no a bell in all the town but shall ring for Annette and me. So that's fair Annette in that one. But yeah, they're all kind of roughly the same, but longer versions and stuff. But yeah,
yeah.
it's a fascinating song in a way, and
Well, it is different. I mean, as you said, it's a standard motif of parental disapproval of a match, and forced marriage and that sort of thing. So it's standard
yeah,
motif, but it's, I think, unusual, maybe unique, in that it's the birth of the child that in effect kills her. I mean, it isn't. It's the treatment after the birth, of course,
yeah.
treatment. But all of that, I think, is fairly unusual.
Yeah. And there's two tunes in Bronson as well, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right.
We've got, are they both Scotland? I think
Yes,
they
it
are.
must be.
Yes, yeah.
And as I say, there's one or two tunes like Carpenter since Bronson,
Yes.
but not many.
Fair Janet, this is version 1. Dun 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 da da dun da 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 bum bum da 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 ya da da dum da dum da da. And I won't give the listeners the torture of hearing me try to pair up some Scots words with that. And then the second version, lived ants twa lovers in yon dale.
That's from the Scots Museum, isn't it?
Yeah, Johnson, volume 6, 1803.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yes, so that's earlier than the text that we've got.
Yeah.
Three.
Dun 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 yan dun 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 bum da 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 dum da 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 ya dum da dum da 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 bum da 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 ya da da bum bum dum bum ba dum da da da. So it's kind of, can't decide whether that's major or minor. It could be both. That's fun. But I won't give the listeners torture of hearing me pair that one with the Scots text either. But yeah, that's all we have. They're quite similar, but that's not the melody that Peggy Seeger sings with this, and that's what we're going to hear from Peggy later.
You may have got hers. There's a fragmentary text and a tune in the Greg Duncan volumes from Scotland.
I think when we come to this later on, I think she did mention Greg Duncan,
Yeah,
and it might be that. Yeah.
that that was collected 1905, 1907, that kind of period.
Ah, okay.
So that's also likely. But she you would
Right.
have known the Scots Musical Museum that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
She would have known that quite well, so it's possible. Anyway, I
Right.
don't
Sure.
know.
And yeah, basically, there's certainly no like officially released field recording or traditional
No.
singer versions of this, but we do have a recording in the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library archive or index,
Yeah.
which one we mentioned. It's about 16, almost 20 seconds of wax cylinder that you can barely make out.
Yes, and of course the original for that would be in the Library of Congress.
Yeah,
The Vaughan Williams just has copies.
indeed, but it's we only know it's that because it's labelled as such.
Yes,
We
that's
can't actually
right.
we can't tell by listening to it. We have to go on faith that it actually is.
Yes.
Fair, but I may play that snippet just because it exists.
Yeah, I mean, if you
You
can
know,
bring the volume up a bit, then it should be playable. Yeah.
yeah, fine. Well, we'll leave things there then. Yeah, that's been fascinating, and I can't wait for people to hear my interview with Peggy Seeger coming up next. Thanks very much, Steve. We'll there may be a possibility of a repeat appearance from you. Another repeat appearance from you in this season, but I need to work out a couple of things first.
Okay.
But otherwise, I'm sure we'll see you at some point in the future. Steve Roud, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
A huge thanks again to Steve Roud for providing us with the history of Fair Janet. Normally at this point in the episode, we listen to some clips of traditional singers. As I discussed with Steve, there really aren't any, at least professionally released recordings of traditional singers singing this song. But that wax cylinder recording we mentioned does exist and is available to hear on the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library site. Such is my luck with technology. On the day I recorded that interview with Steve Roud, the audio played fine, which is how I was able to talk about it. But on the day I'm putting this episode together, that audio file won't play. Something to do with servers, I don't understand. Technology baffles me. I'll put the web link to that page of the Roud Index for that recording in the episode notes, and hopefully it'll play well enough should you want to hear it. It starts at 13 minutes 20, because it's about a 15-minute chunk of audio, 13 minutes 20, and lasts approximately 16 seconds. Have fun! On to the second half of this episode. To chat a lot more about Fair Janet, I was joined on a Zoom call for this episode by Peggy Seeger. Well, hello and a big welcome to Peggy Seeger to In the Roud. Hello.
Thank you, Matt. I'm honored to talk about this ballad, which I had forgotten that I knew.
Oh, there you go. It doesn't seem to be one that's particularly sung these days. I'm pretty sure we're actually recording this for listeners. We're recording this before I've had a chance to do the history half with Steve Roud. But I'm pretty sure that Steve and I are going to come to the conclusion that it's not been sung in the oral tradition, in the sort of field recording side of the folk sphere that we cover on the podcast. And as far as I can tell, there's only 3 people who have actually recorded it. On the folk revival, if you want to call it that, as well. You being one of them, and so I was overjoyed and very honoured that you agreed to come on and talk about this ballad. It's lovely, and yeah, it's nice to see you. It's nice to meet you again. We were having a discussion earlier about that we did meet approximately 10 years ago at a folk club in London, and you bought me a drink, so that was very nice of you.
I must have liked what you did as an opening act to buy you a drink.
Yes, I think you did. That was me and my dad as our duo called the Mighty Quins, and we supported you and Sandra Kerr doing a duo gig, which was a very good evening. I remember it very well. So it's great to have you here, and to start us off, if you like, with a bit of Peggy Seeger history, just a little bit of your sort of musical upbringing and how you came to folk music. What was How did that happen for you?
Well, I am interviewed quite a bit because at my advanced age, people are eager to grab what I know before I snuff it. And I regard myself as a resource. Now, I have talked about how I came to folk music. I have talked myself to death about it. I wrote a book called The First Time Ever. It's a memoir. It's not an autobiography. It's a memoir. And I wrote it so that I could tell people, read the book, when they ask questions like you just asked.
Sure.
Because it's a long story. I can't do it in a nutshell unless it's a nut the size of a football.
Yeah.
I had a privileged upbringing that was rich in folk music in the United States, in folk music, and rich in classical music. I have those two parameters of the musical social source area. I know very little about pop music, and I am a second-hand singer. We did not sit on the porch of an Appalachian cabin and sing with banjos and guitars. My father was a music administrator, and my mother was a piano teacher and incredible composer of modern music. She got involved. They both got involved with President Roosevelt in the 1930s. They were part of his New Deal, trying to pull the United States out of the Depression. And one of the ways was joining in with Alan Lomax. So I was brought up in a household that was rich in classical music and rich in hearing the actual folk singers that had been collected by John and Alan Lomax. And as a child, at 2 years old, I was listening to prison songs, chain gang songs, gospel, songs of mothers either murdering their babies or being kicked out of the house with a baby in their arms, and long ballads. It was more light folk music. I regard the ballads as really heavy. They are really serious. And the fact that people sang them and brought them forward from the history that they brought from England and Scotland and Ireland, and they became part of the American tradition, has always fascinated me, completely fascinated me. They brought with them their treasures, their cultural treasures. So I learned folk music I just absorbed it. I was able at one point to hear a song once and then completely sing the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So at 2 years old, I knew Barbara Allen all the way through. Yeah. I got scarlet fever and was in hospital, and my mother and father found me because I was singing Barbara Allen down the corridors in my little cot. I cannot start singing a ballad and interrupt it. I am unable to do that. If I start singing a ballad, I have to finish it. If we have time, I have a funny incident of that in Oxford. But you'd have to remind me. So I was brought up able to sing these songs. I sang them as I had heard them, as much as I could, with my little child's voice and then with a teenage voice. And they are my history. I learned them before I learned any other kind of music. I loved classical music, and I started learning to play the piano when I was 6. But I was singing serious social musical history, both black and white in the United States, from as far back as I can remember. And that is my history. My mother was transcribing the songs for a book for the Lomaxes. And when you transcribe or try to transcribe something like this onto the rather tight corset of classical music notation with 5 lines and bar lines and meter bars, it's very difficult to record something like this. I've been a bad, bad girl, wouldn't treat nobody right. I've been a bad, bad girl, wouldn't treat nobody right. They want to give me 35 years. Someone wanted to take my life. Do you know this song? Now I'm so sorry, even the day I was born. I want to say to all you bad fellas that you are in the wrong. It's one of the ones collected by the Lomaxes.
Right.
I turned out 3 or 4 years old, being able to sing "I've Been a Bad, Bad Girl." Yeah. So I didn't copy the singing literally, but sometimes the style of singing was so close to the content and the form that there was no alternative but to sing it as closely as you had learned it. But I never regarded myself as an imitator. My brother Mike could imitate exactly, but I couldn't necessarily. That song, Ozella Jones, who made it, she was in prison for murdering her lover. She sang it very high. I've been a bad, bad girl, wouldn't treat nobody right. That's the way she sang it. But for me, putting emotional input and imaginative input, I sing it down low because it would sound silly if I had that kind of voice.
Indeed, and we had. I have that kind of debate sometimes with people about, because sometimes for the work I do have to transcribe some folk songs and write them down on classical staff notation, and the debate is when it comes to those songs that are in what you might call free time, that haven't got like a strict pulse, or the question is where do you put the bar lines, that you either have to really attempt to fit the bar lines to where you think the end of phrases are and change it from being like a 5/4 bar to a 6/4 bar to a 4/4 bar in an attempt to make it work logically, or you just write it out and put lots of pause marks in, and no one can quite decide on the same way to do it for everyone. Everyone's got a different way of doing it, but the simple answer is to not do it, I suppose.
My mother, when they finished the recordings, when she finished the transcriptions for the book called Our Singing Country, not a Lomax book, they asked her to write a preface, and she wrote one which was 40 pages long.
Wow.
And they said that's too long, and she wrote another something or other. But I had the original script of the preface. I had that, what she wrote. And Larry Polanski, who was at Rochester University in the United States, when he heard that existed, he asked me to send it to him. And I sent it to him, and he put it into a book, and it's the most extraordinary document of how to write down something like what I just sang and put it into what I call the corset of Western European notation. I forget the title of the book, but it tells you how to write it down.
Wow. I'd love to see that at some point. Have a look at that myself. That's brilliant.
But that's how I came into folk music.
Okay, that's lovely. Great, good to hear that. So Fair Janet is the reason we are talking now. Do you happen to remember when you first came across this ballad at all, or Has it always been part of you, this one of these ones?
Well, I've been a bit lax in preparation for this interview. I've been busy, I've been a bit ill, and I haven't looked it up in Child or in Bronson, and I'm a little ashamed of that. I would have found it in either one or the other. I have no idea where I got the tune from. I should have prepared better for this.
So what is it about this song that drew you to it, do you think?
I have always loved the stories of the ballads. I was an avid reader of fairy tales.
Oh yeah.
And I think I read right through the Thousand Nights, Scheherazade, the Arabian Nights. Stories just grip me. They still do. They grab me in a way that nothing else does. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and once the story has got me, I've just got to keep listening until I get to the end. I often don't get much done in my life because I'm trying to finish an audiobook, even though some of them are pretty cheesy. Well, not cheesy, but light reading. But the stories are excellent. So I have quite a lot of ballads in my head, and once a ballad hits you, it never leaves. It doesn't go. So when you were talking about this, I just went into the music room. I didn't have a text of it. Then I went to the computer and just typed up a text from my head. And so I think it will probably be quite like the one that you have a recording of. But it was a heroic ballad to me, because this was a woman who was being told what she was going to do. And then she says, you can go through the text of this song, and over, she is the one who's running everything. She's the one who decides what's going to happen, even though it's her own death. And men in this ballad are merely people who try to push her this way or push her that way, or who act kind of like a hyphen between this strong woman and that strong woman. Janet gives her son to Willie, says, take him to your mother. And the mother says, go back to Willie, she has more need of thee. So he goes back. And then, and then there's a dance at the wedding. I mean, and men just in this don't seem to understand the situation. The father is telling her that she's to marry. I mean, if we go through the text, have we got time?
Oh yes, we've got as much time as you'd like.
Right. Go to your father, Janet. Go to your father soon. Go to your father, fair Janet. I fear his time has come. Obviously, it's the mother speaking. So she's away to her father and down upon her knee. Now, if I went to my father, I wouldn't be kneeling in front of him. Why is she down upon her knee? So she's at the bidding of her parents, which often still does happen in life, where the child does what the parent is supposed. But this one, she's down upon her knee as if at church. What would you have, dear father? What is your will with me? My will with you, Janet, it is for bed and board. I know you love little Willie, but you're going to marry a lord. Now, women were kind of like pawns in an economic game. They were they carried the making or the breaking of a family.
That's right. It's also that money can stay within the grasp of certain people. There's all sorts of things.
Or they're going to make alliances with another.
Yeah.
If I must leave little Willie all for to marry some lord, then by my vows, says fair Janet, he'll never come near my bed. In other words, she will be a wife who refuses to sleep with her husband. And they say that's not possible, but it most likely is. So she's away to her chamber fast as she could run, Who's the first one knocking there? Little Willie, her darling one. We must part our love, Willie, that's long been us between, for there's a lord come over from France, and this is an important line, gonna marry me with a ring. There's a lord come over from France, and I gotta go with him. He's going to marry her with a ring. And this almost tells you who little Willie is. He's below her in status. She's probably not allowed to marry him. They would not be married. And marrying her with a ring is so solid that it's more positive than Willie and Janet creating a new little human being. So if we must part our love, Janet, it's for sorrow, grief, and woe. If we must part our love, Janet, I'll into mourning go. First send to me your sisters, Megan, Mary, and Jean. Bid them come to my bedside. I fear my time has come. So he's away to his sisters. So she would not have any members of her father and mother's household to attend her at a birthing. She's bearing this child privately in her father's house, most likely. And anybody who's tried to bear a child silently, I'll tell you, that's very difficult.
I can imagine, yeah.
So, no, you can't. No man.
No, you're quite right. I can't imagine at all. But, you know.
Carole King said, birthing a child is like pulling your bottom lip up over your head.
Okay.
So, and that is exactly what it's like. I have a new great-grandchild as of day before yesterday, and he weighed 9.5 pounds, and she was unable to give birth. She just didn't keep dilating. Now, Queen Jane would have died of that, and maybe she probably did. Who knows? They said, cut my side open, and they did, apparently. And my granddaughter had a cesarean. So this is danger. She's not asking for a midwife. She's asking for relatives of her lover. So they dress themselves nicely. They don't just come in whatever they're dressed in. They drew on silk stockings. They drew on silk gowns. That shows that they have they are of some kind of wealth to have that to dress in. Some drew on their green mantles, offered a run to town. So far, we have women who are doing this, women who are doing that, and women who are saying no, and women who are running to help their brother's lover to bear a child that's not supposed to exist. Now the father must know when Janet kneels at his feet that she is pregnant. He must know. There's no way that he wouldn't. Although some of the clothes were definitely very wide. But, you know, a pregnant woman walks in certain ways. So it's possible that she's being married off before she has the child. I have no idea. There's no information here. But there's a lot of social baggage. So then, come here, little Willie, take your little young son. Carry him home to your mother's house. Mother, I dare be none. Now, in the ballads, over and over and over, it's the mother who has a house. Carry him to your mother's house. It's not carry me to your father's castle. Carry me to your mother. The mothers were strong, and they took control of a whole stack of things, kind of behind the scenes. I'm trying to remember in Barbara Allen who she speaks to first. I think it's her mother, and then she speaks to her father to dig her grave. So he's away to his mother fast as he could run. He takes the little baby. Open the door now, mother dear, here's my little young son. The dew falls on his cheek, mother, and the rain falls on his chin. Open the door now, mother dear. And I think it's in Child Waters, where she sails right up to his door and knocks. And if I've got the name right, it's either Child Waters or Lord Gregory. Says, lover, let me in. Here's your young son. And the voice answers, go drown you in the salt, salt sea, or hang on the gallows tree. And it turns out that the mother is pretending to be the lover, and she says, go away, go away. It doesn't say, oh, she goes away weeping. All of a sudden, the sun is rising, and her lover arises, and he's had a dream that his lover was at his door.
Right.
And then the mother says, there was a woman here last night with a baby in her arms. I wouldn't let her in case she'd do you harm. And then he runs to the salt seashore, and already her ship is on the way back home. So it brings her to her lover's feet, and his little young son is drowned. Now, I added a verse at the end of that, and who knows, and maybe in one of the versions there is a verse. I ended it where he says, a curse I bring on thee, mother, a curse I bring on thee, that you would not let my Annie in when she comes so far to me. I'm going to have to look up Child Waters and see if I made up that verse or not. Sometimes I have made up verses to ballads.
I was looking it up right now to see. I'm not sure. Let me check. I'm just looking at something else as well at the same time. Child Waters, also called Fair Ellen or Fair Margaret sometimes. You say that was a final verse, you said?
Well, what happens in the ballad? Can you cast your eye over it quickly?
Yeah. I warn you all, you ladies fair that do wear red and brown, that you don't leave your father's house to run with a boy from town.
No, that's called Fair Ellen?
Yes, so that's a version of Child Waters.
Okay, well, it's not Child Waters. That's another one. And I think I made up a verse for that one as well. I know that one, yeah. But that's not the one I'm talking about, so it could be Lord Gregory.
Lord Gregory, yeah, I opened. That's actually coming up in this season of the podcast in about 5 or 6 episodes' time. So we'll come to that. I think you recorded a version of that called The Lass of Rock Royal, Lord Gregory. It's that one. Oh, will you shoe my pretty little foot? Who will glove my hand? Is that the one?
And what's the last verse of it?
The last verse. A curse I put on thee, mother, a curse I put on thee, that you would not let my Annie in when she comes so far to me.
Well, I didn't make it up. So I'm very pleased with that.
Oh, there we go. Excellent.
So that's the version probably that I sing of that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll mention that in a few episodes' time when we come to Lord Gregory.
Okay, so here we are, where her father comes in, and he stood at her bedside. Get up, you fair Janet, this day you become a bride. So she says, there's a cruel pain in my breast, there's a cruel pain in my side. Too ill, dear father, to this day to become a bride. And this really tells you how women were just moved back and forward and treated. Get up, you Janet, put on your wedding gown, for you'll be a bride in the evening, though you be dead in the morn. You know?
Lovely.
Yeah. So then there's an incredible verse. Bridesmaids, lift me up easy for to ride. Now, any woman who's just had a child, you ask her to ride a horse. Now, they had to ride side saddle at that time. That would probably have been even worse, because I think you had a horn on the saddle that you had to either hold on or put between your legs to keep you from falling off. Right. So it's bridesmaidens, lift me up easy for to ride. Bridesmaidens, lift me up easy, for I am a deathly bride. Wow.
Yeah, wow, absolutely.
So when they brought her to Mary, she was so pale and wan, so she was made to marry, even though they must have known she had a child. Her hands hung by her side, scarcely could she stand. Up and stepped her husband, I love this verse, up and stepped her husband, bride, will you dance with me? Oh, away, away, you old Frenchman, your love I never will be. Up and stepped little Willie, Janet, dance with me. Now, how could a man ask his lover to dance with him? He should have asked her and then led her away to a chair and sat her down and brought her a drink. You know.
Indeed so, yes.
And that I will, and by my vow, though my body do break in three. Through the dance, fair Janet, through the dance but twice. He's dancing with a woman who has only given birth to a child 4 or 5 hours before, when down she fell at Willie's feet, never again to rise. Take the ribbon from my waist, Willie, take the garter from my knee. Give them to our little young son, his mother he never will see. Go home and tell my mother, not go home and tell my father. Go home and tell my mother, my mare she has me thrown. Now my mare has thrown my mare. He's referring to her as a horse. You know, in Lucy Wan, he refers to Lucy Wan as a gray goose who made such a soft bed for me, and his little gray mare, who forgotten what it is in Lucy Wan, where he's trying to tell his mother why he has the blood on his shirt and on his coat.
Oh yeah, it's usually to do with that's the blood of my horse. He would not ride with me,
or something like that,
or something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. So, women being referred to as, or being not referred to, but compared to an animal or something that makes a man's life, that helps a man in his life, or whatever. So be bitter, be kind to my young son, for father he'll never have none. And mother is doing the action. She has given birth in secret and then gone to the dance because her father tells her to do. I mean, women are literally being treated as chattel and as something that can be pushed about and dealt with. And if you get ill after having a child and can't dance, too bad, you die, you know. And these aren't ones where at the end you say, oh, poor Janet. It's obvious that it is a complete tragedy. And a set of lovers who should have been allowed to marry and allowed to follow their love over and over and over and over and over and over in the ballads, they're not allowed because they're not socially equal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tragic.
And there's a bit of revenge here sometimes where, like in that's a broadside ballad, the Oxford Tragedy, where she falls in love with her father's clerk, and she goes off him. She decides not, and he poisons her, and then they die in each other's arms. So it's, yes, at the end, you know that ballad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's over and over talking about the power of love. You will die for love. You will sicken for love. You will love in spite of your family. You will be sent away as it is in what's that one? The one where the lover is framed and sent away to Virginia. I've forgotten which one that is.
I can't bring that to mind either.
That's okay. And the family constantly jackarode, trying to part them. And they either end up dead rather than do what the family wants, or they end up together, as in Jackie Rover or whatever it's called. Yeah. So this is more than a story, which is why I cannot interrupt when I'm singing a ballad. I can't. I was sitting in the bus line in Oxford on those very cold little benches that are outside Magdalen College. I think it's Magdalen. And I started singing Fair Annie to myself, and my version lasts 9 minutes. So I'm sitting there singing it to myself, and a woman who's sitting about a foot away from me, she moves closer, and she's just obviously listening, and I'm just powering my way through Fair Annie. And we get up and get in the line, and I'm still singing Fair Annie. And I get on the bus, put my bus card on, and I'm still singing Fair Annie. And I sit down in an empty seat, and she sits down next to me, and I'm singing it to myself until I finish it. And she said, "That's a long song." I said, "It's a story." And she said, "What is the story?" So I tell her the story of Fair Annie. And she was intrigued, but I was unable to stop singing, you know.
Yeah.
It was just lightly, Oh, the engine stole Fair Annie away as she walked by the sea. Can't do it. My voice is not good. My Lord Thomas for a fortune for her paid in gold and silver fees. And it's that one.
That's right, yeah.
And it's long, and it is fabulous. It's wonderful.
It really is. Listeners of the podcast will know that one because that was 2 episodes ago on the podcast. We did that one with Sandra Kerr providing the history of that song, and so yeah, that's yes, absolutely fantastic song, and Fair Janet as well that you've just gone through. It's quite astonishing, really. It's a song and it's a story, but it's a rather it's a rather sort of depressing view of humanity.
Well,
I guess.
Well, in a way, working class people largely, I mean, Anna Gordon, the Scottish carrier of ballads, she was from a well-to-do family. But on the whole, these ballads were carried by working class people. It's like in that Scottish ballad, Happen row, the feety o' it. I thought I was a maiden leal until I heard the greetie o' it. My father was a fiddler fine, my minnie she made manky o, and I myself a thumping quine, what danced the reel of Stumpy o. The gossip cup, the kimmer clash and caudle o. The glowing moon, the wanton loon, the cutty stool and cradle o. Douce dames mun hae their bairntime born, so dinnig lower seglumpy o. Craws love corn, birds love morn, maids the real of Stumpy o. But douce dames mun hae their bairntime born. It's saying that even well-to-do women have to go through childbirth. They all have to do this. And and women died right and left from botched up childbirths or just couldn't do what my granddaughter couldn't do physically. In a way, it's a bonding of women because working class women were captured by patriarchy and upper class women were also captured by it. In a way, it's almost a bonding thing for feminism to understand a ballad like this, where Janet is being pushed around and working class women are pushed around by patriarchy in a number of different ways. They were married very young. The moment they got a period, working class women, they had to get married. You know, they're not going to bring any bastards home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although the gypsies have a different idea of that. You know, Belle Stewart, she used to say that you don't have to get married to have a child, and that they welcomed all children in, whether they didn't have much marriage among the gypsies, and said a good child's better than a bad man, and sometimes if you married, you got a bad man, but you always got a good child.
Indeed. I was just, in fact, that reminded me that a few months ago I was reading the book that you and Ewan MacColl wrote, the songs from English and Scottish travellers. And in the first section of the book, there's a whole section on meeting Queen Caroline Hughes and the image of her in the chair surrounded by umpteen children and grandchildren and the whole community. Just that brought that to mind for me just now.
Yeah. Oh, she was something. Yeah.
Yes, I got the recordings of her and wonderful stuff. But yeah, this is I don't know what to say. This is it's an astonishing ballad, an astonishing story. Really, it's in some ways it's sort of no wonder that it doesn't get sung much. It's a pretty hefty, it's a weighty sort of subject matter to get your head around.
Well, the ballad very rarely ended happily. Very rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my tune, I have no idea where I got it from. No idea. But I obviously was disappointed at the ones in Bronson.
Yes, only those two in Bronson, which is two more than some of the child ballads. Some of them have no, or at least some of the child ballads aren't even in Bronson, let alone have one or two tunes. Some of them don't even appear because he couldn't find any melody for them at all. So,
well, I think it's most important to keep the texts alive. And if you don't like the tune it comes with, if the tune it comes with is not dramatic enough for the text, that's in many cases why I changed it. Changed them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The text, the melody is more or less just a tool with which to give the text over, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Although recently, we've just had Martin Carthy, his new album's come out, nominated for a Mercury Prize, and on that, and I saw him perform live at Sidmouth Folk Festival this year, and I think partly because he can't carry two guitars with him anymore, and also partly because it's a very long song, he ended up just reciting his one of his epic ballads, the famous "Flower of Serving Men." He just recited it as if it was a piece of poetry, and it was as equally powerful without the melody as with. So, but a melody does help sometimes. It's all part of the.
I'm all for singing them.
Yeah.
I can recite Fair Janet. I can definitely recite it without a doubt. Any of the ballads that I know, I can recite them, and so can he. I wasn't denigrating the melodies. I was saying that the text is where the message is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Empower it emotionally with a tune that works.
Absolutely, I agree completely with that. And as I said earlier in this chat, you are one, as far as we can tell, one of only 3 people to have ever actually recorded this song professionally. I might as well note your album, yours and Ewan's album. It's on Blood and Roses Volume 2, I think, from 1981. I think that came out. The other two to recommend are the other 2 versions. A friend of mine and a friend to lots of people, a woman called Corinne Mail, made a CD in 2015 called "To Tell the Story Truly," and she sang a version of Fair Janet. She found that in the Oxford Book of Ballads, but it was in Broad Scots, so she adapted it to English. And I think she put a French tune to it, or a tune from a French song that she'd heard, and adapted it that way. So people can check out that one. And another good friend of mine, in fact, a guy called Jack Rutter, on an album he made in 2019 called Gold of Scar and Shale, recorded a version called Fair Janet and Young James. And I think he adapted mostly the version C in Child, the third version in Child for that one. And he used the melody from a different folk song, I think, as far as I can tell. But that really is all there is to say about recommended listening, because it's not, as I said, it's not a ballad that has been recorded much, but it has been recorded by you, and that's why you're here now, very kindly giving your time to this. Thank you so much for coming on in the Roud and chatting about this ballad. It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for reminding me about this ballad. Thank you very much. I'm going to start singing it again.
Oh, excellent. Yes, I quite like it. It would be, it's quite easy just for me to find singers who do sing the song currently, but it's also quite interesting to get guests on who may have forgotten it and get a chance to revisit. So it's nice in that way as well. So I think we'll leave it there. So hopefully may see you again in the future, or may not. But in the meantime, Peggy Seeger, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Go to your father, Janet. Go to your father soon. Go to your father, fair Janet. I fear his days are done. So she's away to her father, and down upon her knee. What would you have, dear father? What would you have with me? My will with you, Janet, it is for bed and board. They say you love little Willie, but you're gonna marry a lord. If I must leave little Willie, all for to marry some lord, then by my vow, said fair Janet, he'll never come near my bed. Then she's away to her chamber, fast as she could run. Who's the first one knocking there? Little Willie, her darling one. We must part our love, Willie, that's long been us between. For there's a lord come over from France, gonna marry me with a ring. There's a lord come over from France, I got to go with him. If we must part our love, Janet, it's for sorrow, grief, and woe. If we must part our love, Janet, I'll into mourning go. First send me your sisters, Meg and Mary and Jean. Bid them come to my bedside, I fear my time is come. So he's away to his sisters, Meg and Mary and Jean. Bid them go to fair Janet, I fear her time is come. Some drew on silk stockings, some drew on silk gown, some drew on their green mantle, all for to ride to town. And they're away to fair Janet, fast as they could run. Come here, little Willie, take your little young son, carry him home to your mother's house. Mother, I dare be none. He's taken to him his baby, kissed both cheek and chin. He's away to his mother's house, open and let me in. The rain rains on my shoulder, the dewdrops on my skin. Here's my little young baby, open and take him in. Go back to Janet, Willie, she has more need of thee. And where you had but one nurse, your young son shall have three. In and came her father, stood at her bedside. Get up, you fair Janet, tonight you become a bride. There's a cruel pain in my breast, father, a cruel pain in my side. too ill, dear father, this night to become a bride. Get up, you Janet, put on your wedding gown, for you'll be a bride in the evening, though you be dead in the morn. Bridesmaidens, lift me up easy for a ride. Bridesmaidens, sit me up easy, I am a deathly bride. When they brought her to Mary to tie the wedding band, Janet was so pale and wan, barely could she stand. Up and bowed her husband, bride, will you dance with me? Away, away, you old Frenchman, your love I never will be. Up and step little Willie, Janet, dance with me. By my vow, and that I will, though my body do break in three. Through the dance, fair Janet, through the dance but twice, when down she fell at Willie's feet, never again to rise. Take the bracelet from my arm, Willie, take the garter from my knee, give them to our little young son, his mother he never will see. Go home and tell my mother, my little mare has me thrown. Bid her be kind to my little young son, father he'll never have none.
That was Peggy Seeger singing Fair Janet. Obviously, that wasn't a brand new recording of the song. Peggy was very sorry to be unable to provide a new recording of the song for this episode, but I'm very grateful that she allowed us to listen to the entire recording she made on her 1981 album, Blood and Roses Volume 2. And that brings us to the end of the episode. What did you think? What are your thoughts in this song? Is this a song you'd ever consider singing, or best left unsung? I'd love to hear from you and all your thoughts on this. If you'd like to get in touch with me, feel free to drop me an email at intheroud@singyonder.co.uk. That's intheroud@singyonder.co.uk. Or visit the podcast on various social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Just search for In the Roud, a folk song podcast. If you are enjoying the podcast, I would very much appreciate it if you could give us a little rating and review on wherever you are listening to your podcasts. Places like Apple Music, you can follow the podcast, and there's a star rating out of 5 and a comment or review section. On YouTube, I know a few people listening there. There's the subscribe button, the thumbs up button, as opposed to the thumbs down button, and you can write comments. And I imagine that it's similar for most podcast platforms. Although some people may have noticed, I've removed the podcast from Spotify. Or rather, all previous episodes until Sir Patrick Spens are up there, but after that, that's it. There's no more on Spotify, because Spotify is evil. Thank you very much. Over on our Patreon, we are now in the middle of our current Singer's Choice mini-season with returning guest John Kirkpatrick, where we covered 3 songs of his own choosing. If you feel so moved to support the podcast financially, then please do head on over to patreon.com/intheroud and sign up for either £5 or £10 per month and receive regular bonus content. Last week we covered John Kirkpatrick's first choice, that's Roud 184, Johnny Sands, with song history from Steve Gardam. There's no Patreon episode this week. Yesterday, that's the 4th of November, was my birthday. Thank you. And as a consequence, I just haven't had time to sort anything out. So we'll be back next week with John Kirkpatrick's second song choice, Roud 232, The Game of All Fours, with song history from Steve Roud. Sign up to hear this and more at patreon.com/intheroud. In the Roud is a media partner of Veteran, the traditional music label. Although this week's song does not currently feature on any of their releases, you can find details of their extensive catalogue on their website, veteran.co.uk. That's veteran.co.uk. One last huge thanks to this week's guests, Steve Roud and Peggy Seeger. Join me next week for episode 5. We'll be looking at Roud 45, which is Child Ballad number 65. That's the song called Bonnie Susie Cleland, sometimes called Lady Masery. There are some versions called that as well. More people than usual for that episode. We've got 2 history guests. The main bulk of it will be Sheena Wellington, and then a return visit from Ruth Perry. And 3 singer guests. Well, it's 3 guests, but they're in one band. As I said, some of these versions of this song are called Lady Masery, and it seemed like no better opportunity to get the band Lady Masery on for an episode. So next week, Sheena Wellington, Ruth Perry, and the band Lady Masery. Can't wait for you all to hear this. Until then, that's it from me. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time in the Roud.